inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. At short third man, it's the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They've bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, Happy New Year. You're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd, and joining me this evening, I've got the custodian of the maidens bowled by men in T20 cricket, Dan Kingdom. Dan, how are you getting on? You wintering well?
I am, yep. Sustained by the fact that it's 10 or 11 weeks till the season starts now. So
73 days. I hope you're keeping up to date with the hard work that I'm putting in on Twitter every day with researching these obscure numbers. President of the club, Sir Peter Wanless, is also joining me. If you aren't keeping up with Sir Peter's professional life, he's recently retired. So watching quite a lot of franchise cricket at the moment, I gather, Pete.
Yes, I've got a lot more time to be presidential than I had previously, and to think about and watch cricket. So yeah, I feel reasonably up to date on at least some of these competitions that are taking place at the moment, with a few Somerset players scattered through them.
Seems to be most of the Somerset players and not without success in these franchise competitions. And last but not least, we have the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, and I'm afraid to say TBC for 2025. Of course, Anthony Gibson is with us as well. Gibbo, what is the latest on the question that's on everybody's lips? Is will you be? Well, it's not the airwaves, is it? But their internet waves. The call Somerset's triumph in the 2025 County Championship.
Well, we still don't know, because there's no news on the ECB's contract with the BBC to broadcast ball-by-ball commentary on County Championship matches. I don't think you'll get rid of me entirely, even if the contract isn't removed, because pre-County Championship commentary, BBC Radio Bristol, BBC Radio Somerset used to broadcast all of the white ball matches. So, I hope that one way or the other, I'll be back on the air come the summer.
Right, let's nip this in the bud now. Who do we need to write to put pressure on to get the ball-by-ball coverage of Championship cricket?
Richard Gould, I think, probably.
We'll start with Richard. He seems to be the root of all evil. If you listen to certain,
he's a good bloke.
He is a good bloke, but has he been?
He still lives in Somerset as well, and he might very well listen to this. So
okay. Has he been drinking from the poison chalice though of that competition that shall not be named? Anyway, well, Gibbo, I had a little listen to the last podcast. You and Steve seem to be very pessimistic about Matt Henry arriving. Myself and Dan were on the optimistic side. Our optimism was rewarded a few days ago. Matt Henry is coming back to Taunton for 2025, April the 7th to June the 25th. 7 championship games and 8 Vitality Blast games. And I think we can agree that's generally all a good thing.
Yeah, great news.
I mean, if you miss my tweet on it, I had a look at the games he's going to be available for. And one of the problems with our championship cricket last year was we couldn't find ways to win away from home. And we have now got Matt Henry for 5 away games out of the 7 that he's here for, which off the top of my head, I think are Sussex, Surrey, Hampshire, Warwickshire and Durham.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's the 5 that he's here for. So obviously we got absolutely rolled at Durham last year. I know in horse racing parlance there was a virus in the yard when we went up to Durham. We got a draw at Surrey. Did we play a championship game away at Hampshire last year?
No, we didn't.
I don't think we did we? So, but that's always a tricky place to go. Edgbaston was always a tricky place to go as well. And of course, Sussex are riding high following their promotion from Division 2 last year. So I think we've got him for the best block that we could have him. Obviously, the bet would be great if we had him for the whole summer, but if we can only have him for a certain amount of weeks, I think we've got him for the best time.
Well, let's just hope he stays fit and doesn't get injured.
Oh, sake of we're trying to start the new year off positively. Of course, we hope he doesn't get injured. For those of you, of course, wondering why he's not here for the first game against Worcestershire, first game of the season, New Zealand are finishing off a one-day series against Pakistan. Peter, were you in on the decision? Were you swapping on flights back and forth to New Zealand to get this over the line?
Well, I know it's been a challenge because he's a much sought after player. So it's not, this isn't something that was a complete sort of shoe in and just kept quiet until everyone was desperate and was then announced. I mean, there was, I don't know if Jeopardy might be putting it too strongly, but, you know, as we know from press coverage, there was significant interest in signing him. I mean, he's a top class performer in this competition and at this time of the season. So not only is this a great plus for Somerset, but it's, you know, it's a negative to others who would have liked to have had him leading their attack as well. So yeah, great news all round.
Yeah, rumour has it down that Yorkshire put in a higher monetary bid than ourselves. I'm not quite sure how that all comes out in the wash. Maybe agents are a little bit loose-lipped after a cider or two, but isn't it good to know that this soft power that we've got of being such a fantastically well-run club with an incredibly fantastic board of a leadership team as well, that we can attract players back the caliber of Matt Henry.
Yeah, it does reflect well on the club for sure. The fact that, you know, he's forgotten more money because he enjoyed his stint with us before, and he enjoyed the group of players, I assume. And not only that, he presumably could have gone into the PSL if he wanted to, which has been played in April and May, but he decided not to go into that. There's also that Major League Cricket, which is probably June-ish, may not overlap his stint with us. But anyway, I think it's the fact that he's still playing Test cricket means he wants to still stay in that red ball mode in between Test series, particularly as New Zealand don't play that much Test cricket. So for now, while he's playing Tests, he clearly wants to play as much red ball first class cricket as possible, and we've got to take advantage of that. Even if, you know, it's a shame we can't have him for more of the season, but we've got to get him for whatever stint we can. I did have a quick look at the Future Tours program. At least it changes a lot, but the Future Tours program says New Zealand tours Zimbabwe in July and early August, which is presumably the reason his stint ends in whenever it does, the end of June. But after that, they don't play anything, at least according to the Future Tours program. So we could have him again in maybe September, potentially, which would be nice.
It would be nice if we make it the finals day or the quarterfinals and finals day. So it'd be lovely to get him back as well. And of course, speaking of T20 cricket, we have the absolutely mouth-watering prospect of Craig Overton not being given the new ball in preference of Riley Meredith and Matt Henry, which I think would be absolutely, well, incredible. Did I repeat the word incredible? But it's double incredible.
Except Craig Overton is best with the new ball bowling.
I know, but I was making the point that we have an embarrassment of riches in our white ball team. So it's certainly something to look forward to. I had a little check on the website. They haven't actually confirmed the dates when Meredith's coming here. It just sort of gives a kind of blurry window of it'll be available for T20 and some championship and some Metro Bank if he's not a replacement for Joe Root at number 4 up at St Rockets. So that would indicate maybe sort of mid-June-ish to mid-August, something like that sort of window.
I think it's all of the Blast group stage, but yeah, and then it's maybe there's championship games in the middle of the Blast, maybe a bit here or there before or after. I think it all depends on his fitness and whether he's signed in the 100, etc. You know, it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play any championship cricket again, but we've got to get him. You know, it's worth getting him for whatever we can, for sure.
And he had a very good day today for the Hobart Hurricanes. Took a couple of early wickets, took them straight through to the final of that competition. So he's again a sort of red hot in terms of someone for that format of the game. Another great returner.
I'm feeling a little bit out of sorts here because we haven't really got anything to moan about. It's all looking really good at the moment. It was the Members' Day at Taunton today. I was able to pop up for that one. While we're talking about players, we'll probably quickly reflect on what Sarge said, and a couple of people picked up on what I'm about to talk about as well. We had a question about this from, and if you can tell, Simon Hancock. Sarge was talking about future recruitment, and his very heavy implication was that we have a lot of batters in the side who aren't getting enough game time, and we are not necessarily short of bowlers, but he wants one, maybe two more bowlers. So we don't have, it would appear, if Meredith's not coming until either the start of the Blast or maybe a game or so in, I think we do need another seamer for the start of the championship campaign, at least that first block of 6, 7, 8 games. That's what Sarge implied that they were going for. Any names, guys? I mean, anybody heard anything? I'd be more than happy with Pretorius.
Yeah.
What about Will Sutherland, who nearly came? Was it last year?
Yeah, he did. He's not in any of the
Craig Overton lookalike.
He's not in any of the. Is he in any of the franchise comps, Sutherland, or the PSL or the IPL or anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not IPL. Don't think he's in PSL.
He's a good cricketer.
So either of those two.
He is very like Craig Overton. But then two Craig Overtons in the side. That's pretty good.
Why not? Well, we had his twin brother for a long while, so that's probably as close as you'll get. Although they do seem to have gone a little bit of a different way in their styles as they are at the moment. Where then? Totally lost my train of thought then. Oh yeah, I was talking about what Sarge was saying. Yeah, he was. He seems to be happy with the batting unit, but going for another bowler, it would appear.
I picked up the same from Jamie Cox last week at the West of England Cricket Society when I had quite a long chat with him, and he said they don't. If they're going to sign a top order batsman, they want a really good top order batsman. He said we don't want to be signing someone who's averaging 35 in first class cricket. It's got to be someone who is step change better than the likes of Goldsworthy and Umeed and so on. I still think that there would be a lot to be said for re-signing Matt Renshaw. He's been in tremendous form, as Peter, I'm sure, has been watching in the Big Bash. He seems to have come on as a batsman. He's popular in the dressing room. He knows Somerset. So if they can't pick up a really good seam bowler, I'd quite like to see Renshaw coming in as a left-handed opener to partner Archie Vaughan at the top of the innings and let Lammonby stay at number 3.
He had a pretty good Sheffield Shield as well, I think, Renshaw.
He got lots of runs in the Shield.
I mean, far be it from me to argue with Sarge. But I mean, the average is one thing, but the ability to stay there is the other, isn't it? I mean, if we had an opening bat who could hang around, even if they only averaged 30 and others were able to kind of bat around him, we've got all these players that once the ball goes a bit softer and isn't moving about as much, can score quite a lot of runs quite quickly. So I still sort of like the idea of. So I mean, I've spent too much time at the Oval watching Burns and Sibley bat for longer than I really want to see them. But someone who of that style would give a bit more variety to our batting lineup. That's the only thing. But whether that would, if it was an overseas person, it'd clearly have to be at the expense of a second bowler, and maybe we need the Pretorius type figure more.
I mean, Khawaja's the name that instantly kind of springs to mind when you talk about that type of player. I mean, domestically, we did sign 2 of them. We signed Umeed and Dixon to be these shine busters at the top of the order, and then all of they got to turn into one-day mavericks. So who knows what we could give Usman Khawaja an impetus to be back in the IPL after playing a few years opening the batting for Somerset. Tricky one. Another tricky one is this issue we have, of course, with TKC and his NOC for the PSL. Is it TBD? Have we heard anything from the ECB or the PCA on this? What's the SP?
Well, I've read on Quick Info and the Telegraph that Kolo Cameron was basically going to renegotiate his contract with Somerset to become a white ball only deal. Although there's a possibility he could play some Red Bull matches on a pay-as-you-play basis. But, I mean, to be honest, he doesn't really get in our Red Bull team anyway now, does he?
No.
I mean, he had a decent first year with us in Red Bull cricket. And sort of struggled a bit last year when he came out from the IPL. And now we've got, we've got so many options with the batting, as we've been discussing. I think we'll probably be happy to save some money and get rid of the Red Bull provision in his contract. And then I think there's even the question of whether he even stays beyond the end of this season at all. Because if he's only playing one format, if he doesn't have a great blast, do we really want him to take up a spot in the blast that Rue or Lamonby could have? Because they've not, Rue showed how good he is in final state. He's not guaranteed to play in the blast this year, at least initially. Lamonby's been squeezed out the side in the last couple of years in the blast. So unless TKC has an exceptional blast, I'm not sure we'll be keeping him. But I don't know. It might be he might not even want to stay. I mean, he might become completely freelance. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think it's certain at all that he stays beyond this year.
Yeah, Sarge was going to take a Q&A, but from the audience, but he didn't end up taking a Q&A. I asked Spencer, and he said TBD and TBA, so expect something to come out soonish, I would think. But it's a difficult one because, as you said, he went to the IPL last year, so voluntarily gives up his championship spot, which is then grabbed with both hands by Tom Banton. He comes back in. Has the bat out of position, opens the batting at knots, doesn't really do enough to make that position his own. Then he just gets left out the side towards the end of the season. It's a risk you take,
he's gravitating towards the white ball game, pretty fundamentally, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Tom Banton is a much more interesting and challenging. Where is your head if you're Tom Banton, because you've had such a successful Red Bull season with us last year. He could easily have got a PSL contract that he didn't. He's doing really well in the ILT 20 at the moment. The Cricketer magazine last month had him in a kind of shortlist to potentially make the test team. So all the time we can play up and encourage him, a bit like you're saying, Dan, about Matt Henry, to feel like he's got test match potential. I guess there is a case to continue playing the Red Bull game and please us punters who desperately want to see him doing well in that format of the game. But he's got so many choices, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that he didn't go in for the PSL, and Jamie Cox said he could earn more in the PSL probably than his entire Somerset contract, and he didn't go in for it. I mean, that's a huge vote of confidence from Tom Banton in A, Somerset, and B, Red Bull cricket. I think, that's been the act of all the good news over the last few weeks. That's been the best news because he is committing himself to being a proper cricketer and playing his cricket for Somerset. And I think that is really, tremendous and reflects great credit on Tom Banton.
I think we can't say that loudly enough and kind of get behind him and be supportive of him because, as I say, I do feel that, he's got options.
And I think all those, if there were any doubts about a few doubts about the last time he didn't sign a contract and then, the penultimate time he didn't sign a contract and then again this season just gone, but any doubts about his commitment to the club would have been immediately erased when he came hobbling out. Could have potentially ruined his ankle that was already in a great deal of pain to get those few extra runs to make sure we beat Surrey on that glorious day in September, which seems like a lifetime ago. I did watch that in real time the other day. I had the winter blues, so I just whacked that on for the full day and enjoyed that again. And if you are feeling the winter blues, dear listener, I suggest if you haven't already that you do it as well. Right. Should we move on to the Members' Day? There was a lot to update. It's mainly from Sarah Trunks, who's the operations director at Somerset. Unless you've had your head under a rock for the last few months or so, you know that we've been awarded a Tier 1 women's team, and there has been quite a lot of work gone on around the ground, mainly in the Andy Caddick Pavilion and in the Marcus Trescothick Pavilion to kind of make room for everybody, really. The away dressing room has now been repurposed and refitted as the women's home dressing room. So it's I don't know if you've probably seen inside the men's dressing room on things like Behind the Wyvern and sort of videos like that. The away dressing room was pretty much like an old school swimming pool dressing room, very bare, all tiled, just the basic pegs on the wall. Not quite a hostile environment, but functional but not welcoming, I think, is the decorators' brief when they created that. So that's all gone now. They've kitted that out, expanded the gym. So basically all the offices in the Andy Caddick Pavilion have now gone. They are in the Marcus Gothic Pavilion. Size of stragglers has been halved. One half, the half nearest the staircase, is now the commercial office, and stragglers had basically been gutted, and it's being refitted as we speak to get it ready for the season. So now the away dressing rooms are the dressing rooms for the indoor school. So batters will have to come out through the indoor school, through the gym, out that way. And one thing that they are doing, which is a welcome idea, is they are putting in a staircase from the balcony down to the dugout. So at the end of play, when they have to rope that walkway off and everybody has to wait for 10 minutes or all the players get on and off the field, that's not going to be a problem anymore, because the players will go up the stairs and spectators will be able to move freely in front of the doors to the Andy Caddick Pavilion. The best news is the Brian Rose gates will be open. Those are the gates by the Ring of Bells. They're going to be open before play. They're going to be shut at 11 o'clock, open just before the lunch break. Open during the lunch break, and so basically going to be shut during play but open during intervals.
Popularism alive and well.
Yeah, well, I popped my hand up and said, "Oh, could you put a one-way exit turnstile in them? So if you do want to go out, you don't have to have a steward there on the gate. You can just pop out and say, oh, that's not thought of that. That's a good idea." So they might do that. What else have we got? I'm kind of rabbiting around here. The Somerset, the shirt shop, not the equipment shop, the one in the Ondarcha Pavilion, that's now the Somerset Foundation office. There's going to be an extension to the Somerset County Sports porter cabin by the museum, so that's going to be expanded to hold the Somerset merchandise as well as the equipment shop. And I think that's pretty much it. She did a rallying call for any volunteers to pop along, just to help with a kind of a cricket force day of renovation and a bit of painting and a bit of TLC. So if you have got a spare hour or two, give Sarah a call at the club. The Ian Botham stand, which was quite humorously referred to as the IBS on a slide, which I thought it is quite an irritating structure at the moment, with the amount of work that needs going on to keep it up to spec. Nothing's going to be going on with that at the moment. The plans to put an extra story on that have stopped, and one block of the Somerset stand is going to be open on every day of championship matches. The ground regulations are going to be rewritten, so we're not going to have this weird what do they call it? What was the word? Canting. All that sort of stuff is going to be that's by the by, and that's not going to be happening anymore. But they're going to just rewrite the ground regulations to make them a little bit more easier to understand. And I think that's pretty much it, because the more I've written down, the worse my handwriting's got, and I can't read it anymore. Are they going to get some better quality coffee in as well? Richard Bryce always spoke about the 150th. There's going to be an opening dinner on the 28th of March at the ground. So details of that are going to be released soon. And the AGM is going to be on the 11th of June.
Which is my wedding anniversary.
Is it?
Yeah, I did raise that at the meeting, but agreed that it was fine because on my wedding anniversary last year it was Middlesex against Somerset at Lords, and I prioritised that. So Lady W has got used to it by now.
What was the one-day cup final in 2019, Gibbo? That was something for you, wasn't it? Was it your wedding anniversary? Was it Claire's birthday?
It was the day after my wedding anniversary. You're quite right.
All right.
Yeah, it's the day after.
Does anyone know anything about start times of the matches this year? Because they're still TBC, and I know obviously most start times are obvious, but there are a few like Sunday Blast games which are always slightly less obvious. So
you love this one, don't you, Dan? It's like, it's Surrey against Somerset in the Blast on a Sunday, and it starts at 7:30.
That's exactly what I'm hoping to avoid. Yeah. It's no problem obviously, but with the women, with the double headers now, with the women, it does. Every county has a slightly different policy for how they do their double headers. So it does mean there is a bit of uncertainty over when Sunday Blast games start. So I'm just wondering when we're going to get them, because for some reason the ECB are, according to the note on the Somerset website, the ECB are have requested that start times remain TBC for now, which is a bit weird. It says shortly we'll know them, but it says shortly for a while. So
I don't know. I'm sure
can't help with that. I mean, I know our default preference is Friday evenings and Sunday afternoons. So I think it doesn't suit anyone to have the games going on too late on Sundays, but you know, that's common sense, and common sense isn't always the answer, is it?
Yeah, and it's more the away games I'm worried about. Yeah, it's like Essex away on a Sunday. I'm hoping is a relatively decent start time for us, so it's not, hopefully it's not a late evening finish on a Sunday. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, you don't want to spend too much time in Chelmsford if you can help it, do you?
It's double header as well, so even more time.
Oh, get on. And speaking of double headers as well, we had Chloe Skelton, Bex Odgers, and head coach Trevor Griffin from Somerset Women, who followed Sarge. Girls were a little bit. I think it's their first time they'd spoken in front of an audience that size, so they were a little bit nervous. But Trevor was full of enthusiasm and energy, as he always is. Just very proud of how things are going on. He said, and how much the women's games expanded. They sold 500 women's memberships, which it did make me laugh when the club had to clarify that no, this isn't membership for women. This is membership to come and watch the women's matches. So
it's amazing.
Hopefully they may have sold a few more off the back of that. But as well as watching the men have a net, Alfie Ogburn was working on playing the ball a bit later and straighter. Tom Lammerby, who's got a lovely beard now, just seemed to be trying to hit it into the balcony and kill as many members as he could. And Andy Mead was working with Tweds in the other net, and then so I don't recognise as much of the women's players as I should, but I'm sure that will change. But Matt Swaller was doing a fielding drill with a few of them. There was a couple of them, a bit of a battle of bowl in the gym in the two sessions that we saw. And I think.
So is Max on the coaching staff for the women then? Is that official?
I think he. Don't quote me on this, but from what I understand, he's kind of like an ad hoc fielding consultant.
I think he was as well.
When we had the AGM, which might have been the day that Riley Meredith arrived, he was out doing some stuff with the lads fielding, just boundary catching. So yeah, I think that's his role. I've not seen him announced or named as anything, but I would imagine that's what his role is.
Yeah, because I haven't.
The England women could do with a bit of help from him.
Well, that is the thing, isn't it? You can't be professional without having the criticism. Unfortunately, poor old Alex Hartley seems to have been sent to Coventry by her former teammates for saying that they were terrible in the field when they were terrible in the field. not particularly good. I just had a thought, actually. This popped into my head the other day. The 100's been good for women's cricket is the line that I think we all generally accept is more or less true. But the England national team have got steadily worse since the introduction of the 100. Discuss.
I mean, obviously, it's not, correlation doesn't always mean
Correlation,
causation.
I know, it's not
But
causation.
yeah, I don't know. Let me think. They did have a good Ashes in England last time. It was a drawn series, wasn't it? We didn't quite get the Ashes back. I think there's potentially, they have tried to freshen things up a bit. Do they need to maybe move on from a couple more players? But the thing is, one of the players who people thought would be one of the ones that England would potentially move on from soon is Sophia Dunkley, and she scored runs yesterday, didn't she? I think so. Yeah, it's difficult, but something is not quite right at the moment, and I think they are potentially going a bit too aggressive. I know, that they're trying to almost replicate, Baz Ball, etc. And they're in that low chase 180. I didn't actually see it, but from what I gather, they didn't particularly bat very sensibly, despite the fact that it was a game they really had to win. But instead, they just went way too aggressive, fell well short of the target on a pitch that was not that easy to bat on. So I think there's talk of potentially the head coach being the problem, John Lewis, because obviously there's clearly a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in the regional system as well. There's a question of whether there are players in the regional system who are being unfairly ignored for maybe supposedly not being aggressive enough. But obviously, as we know, in ODI cricket, you don't have to be T20 style all the time with the bat. So yeah, there are questions for sure. There's also another thing I've just thought as well is players like Izzy Wong, who have just fallen away in the last couple of years. She was a major talent, tearaway fast bowler, and the ECB seems to have ruined her slightly, which is a massive shame. She's essentially on the comeback trail to some extent. She was decent Western Storm last year on that loan stint. But yeah, there are plenty of questions around England women's cricket at the moment.
Hopefully, a few of our Somerset girls can put their hands up and get ignored.
On another subject, what do we think about the Roux brothers?
The Roux brothers?
Yeah, I mean they're both wicket keepers.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a case for giving Thomas the gloves and saying to James that he should concentrate on his batting and become a proper, top order, top class batsman?
I think they're so talented. You could ask them to open the bowling, and they'd probably be sat with their feet up by lunch. You know what I mean? I think, particularly James, he's answered every challenge that he's had in his young career. With ease. It's all been water off a duck's back, and I think that's not just down to his talent, but his personality as well. He's a pretty unflappable sort of guy.
But how good a wicket keeper is he, particularly to spin?
I'm not going to lie. I think there's always room for improvement, but he's 20, 21 or whatever he is now. But
I haven't seen Thomas Roux keep wicket, but he's supposed to be pretty good. Yeah,
I mean, I think if you said to James this time, he said, "We want you to open the batting, and we'll give the gloves to either Tom Banton or James Roux, or to Thomas," he'd be like, "Okay, I'll open the batting, and I'll probably score 1,500 runs." If he said to him, "We want you to stay at 6, but God's sake, there were a couple of half chances that you put down against, I think it was maybe one at Surrey, and there was maybe a couple of little untidy ones against Durham." This is just off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember now, but we really need to work on your keeping against spin. He'd work on his keeping against spin, and he would improve that 10-20%. I just think the sky's the limit with it with James, and we've not seen much of Thomas in the flesh, but I think if you told him that Jack Leach and Bashir and Vaughan were injured, and you said, "Oh right, well we need you to work on your left arm tweakers," Rui, you probably get 50 wickets a season. So it's
I think it would be worth Banton spending 100% of his time on his batting, and not think so. So I don't think the answer is to give him the gloves and tell James Roux to concentrate on his batting. So then it comes down to what are the respective qualities of each of the Roux brothers wicket keeping, and what's the ceiling of their capability in each of those two skills, I suppose. Because I agree with you, Anthony. I think the logic would suggest that if one of them spent their time completely thinking about becoming the absolute best batter they could do, wouldn't that be more likely to turn them into an even better player? But I don't know enough about how good they are as wicket keepers, other than having a traditional kind of view that it feels important to have a technically excellent wicket keeper, and that we do see catches dropped and stumpings missed from time to time.
We do.
I mean, Thomas is out in South Africa with the under-19s, and Archie's captain of that. And I watched the first one where we absolutely hammered them. I think we bowled them out for about 85, and we were cruising. We lost about 2 or 3 wickets trying to really quickly. But Thomas came in and didn't face the ball in the run chase, which was a bit disappointing. But I don't know when. I think we lost the next game. I don't know when the other games are, but I'm going to try and make an effort to.
There's another one tomorrow.
I'll try and give it a watch tomorrow, because we've all probably seen that highlight reel of these elastic wrists smashing, this poor other lad around him. What was it, like a Bunbury game or a regional game, something like that? So it's very difficult to make a judgment on a player just by watching that. But from what you do see, you think, oh, he just looks like a natural talent who has got an excellent eye for the ball and can hit potentially 360. But we'll need to look at his keeping and watch him play a full innings. He's obviously rated very highly. I mean, Jason Kerr mentioned him by name, and he was talking about George Thomas being let go as one of the next cabs on the rank, and he's not even out the academy yet. He's not yet signed a professional contract, but they obviously rate him as well. The lad who's caught the eyes well is Finn Hill. He's scored like 500s in 5 weeks down in Australia, something like that. I've got the page up where they're talking about all the players. It's not on this one. But I do know that young Finn's having a pretty good time of it out in Australia.
I wrote my piece for the almanac about T20 finals day last year, but T20 finals day for the second 11 rather than the first. And Finn Hill had a really great day as part of that team. I think he's a great prospect.
Well, one thing that Sarge did say is, and I don't know whether this is a tease or a spoiler or whatever or what have you, but he was talking about how the dressing room environment. He said, it doesn't matter if you're 9 or 90, if you're in that Somerset dressing room environment, you're welcomed because the other players know that you're good enough. So I don't know whether that's a tease that maybe 1 or 2 younger players may be playing a slightly bigger part than we thought they would. If we'd have sat here, last January and said, do you know who's going to be key into maintaining our title challenge in September? It'll be Archie Vaughan with 11 wickets on his first class debut. If you're like, all right, yeah.
It wasn't his debut.
Okay, but you get one.
Yeah, just factually clarifying for everybody.
11 on his debut against Durham and 10 against Surrey, was it?
It wasn't as many as that against Durham, but it was 11 against Surrey, I think.
Okay, let me rephrase it. If we'd have sat here last January and said that Archie Vaughan was going to take a shitload of wickets in December,
he's not a bowler, he's a batsman. The off breaks are optional extras. He's an opening batsman. That's what he should focus on.
My God, you say he's an all-rounder, though, Gibbo, surely.
No, he's an opening batsman who bowls a bit. You ask him.
I think, to be fair as well, he will be a weapon with the Kookaburra, but I think he'll bowl a lot less in the matches with the Dukes, which obviously is most of the season. So, looking for that initial period in April, May, he'll focus pretty much only on his batting. So I don't think there'll be any Kookaburra around during that. So it'd be really exciting to see if he can solidify one of those opener spots. That would be great because we have had a lot of opening partnerships in recent years.
We have. We can't call on Steve Davis anymore when the shit hits the fan, which is
every year it happened. A few
yeah,
days
it was the default, wasn't it? We try X and Y, and then Steve. I mean, we do like to pick our team for the next game on the podcast. So should we try? Let's do that now. I mean, are we saying TBC for the second opener? We have to say one is forward, don't we?
I didn't get the impression that they're planning to sign a top order batsman.
No. So I'm going to go blank Lammonby.
I don't think
Abel.
Oh, I think
Vaughan.
Vaughan,
So
will open.
Vaughan, TBC, Lammonby, Abel, Banton, Rue, Gregory, Henry, Overton, and Leach. So I've got a spot for an opener, and I got a spot for number 8.
Yeah, it's Aldridge or Davey or Ball, isn't it? The other bowling spot, or Meredith or whoever other overseas player we might sign. And personally, I would go Goldsworthy opening, as I always advocate for Goldsworthy being in the side, because I always think he's been roundly fucked over in the last couple of years. He was amazing second half of 2022. He's just hardly played in 2023 and 2024. He's just managed to score a century at the end of 2023, having not played at all before that in the season. In 2024, he played a bit at the start of the season, a little bit at the end of the season as an opener, had a couple of 38s, then a couple of failures, then somehow got dropped for an out of form Andy Umeed for some reason, and he's continued to do well in the One Day Cup. He had a decent stint with Leicestershire in both the Championship and the Blast. And I just think he needs to be playing now. Like, now is when he should be. His development, I think, has just been stunted a bit in the last couple of years through lack of game time in the Championship, and it really felt like he'd broken through a couple of years ago. So I'd really, really like to see him playing regularly in the Championship next year, and we can really see if he's got it or not.
And I suppose now is the time. If you say to somebody in January, you're going to be opening the batting in April, because let's be honest, unless you sign Rohit Sharma or somebody, or Matt Renshaw suddenly drops you a line and says, "I'm desperate to come back to Taunton," you can pretty much know from what went on last season and what you've got, what your first choice 11 is going to be. And if say to a Goldsworthy, you're going to be opening this year, mate, so you need to work on the things that are going to make you a good opener, rather than doing it with a week or so's notice in August, September last year. I'd agree. I'm going Goldsworthy. And then I'm thinking Casey's going to have a big season this year as well. So Casey at 8. Not bad side. Vaughan, Goldsworthy, Lammonby, Abel, Bantam, Rue, Gregory, Aldridge, Overton, Henry and Leach.
So that's only one overseas as well. So
that's only one overseas as well. And then our backup seamers, Ball, Davey, Green,
Ogborn. Yeah.
And potentially an overseas seamer as well. So I think there'll be plenty of rotation in the bowlers, won't there, as always?
Yeah.
Has Thomas Rue taken his A levels yet?
The old years.
I don't know.
Because I predict confidently that Thomas Rue will make his debut for us in the One Day Cup this year. I don't really have much logic in that. I just got a feeling this will be the year he makes his debut.
I think he might make his debut for us in the Championship, depending on his exam situation. I think they're planning to bring him into the side as soon as they possibly can.
That would again allude to Sarge's comment. That would fit with his cryptic message.
He was born in November 2007, which means he's currently in his second year of A levels, I think, because you turn 18 in your
so he won't be available probably until the end of early July, something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe the Metro Bank would be his debut.
Looking very promising, isn't it? Got any listeners' questions? Let's have a look. Oh, John Hayes, our old friend John, is talking about, where are we here? Rotation. With so much success, relative and real and white ball, is it now time to load up on guns in the county championship? That is to say, football style rest and rotate, play a fringe team in the T20 as we're forced to in the One Day Cup, and go hard in the championship.
In his dreams,
We don't need to play a fringe team in the D20, do we? Because we've just run through a pretty strong championship team. I mean, other than finding this opening bat who averages 40.
I'll tell you something else that's just occurred to me, talking about T20. Will Smead.
Yes.
Smead. There, Jamie Cox said that there are indications, he didn't put it any stronger than that, that Will Smead may follow in the footsteps of Tom Banton and go back to trying to make himself into a red player as well as a white.
He did, if you cast your mind back to September, turn out in a second 11 Red Bull fixture.
Well, there you are.
At the Vale.
And he definitely doesn't need any more A-levels.
No, he doesn't.
Because he's a very clever boy.
He was a very clever boy, and he's such a good cricketer as well.
And I did ask him
if he's lost to Red Bull.
And I maybe just wonder as well, if you're just playing white ball cricket for Somerset and you kind of look at the atmosphere in the county ground on the day of that Surrey game and you think, oh, I wish I was a part of that. I know I'm a part of it because I'm part of the club and I'm a Somerset fan, but oh, Jesus Christ, I'd have loved to have been in the dressing room singing Blackbird with those boys. That must have been such a good feeling. And I just wonder, because it is part of the heritage, isn't it, Red Ball cricket at Somerset? I know we've got a fantastic record in both forms of the game, but, you know, wouldn't you love to be part of the side, that the first ever side that lifts that championship trophy?
Yeah. And anyway, I think it's possible that Will Smead may come back into the equation in more than just the T20 Blast.
I think you're right. I did ask him about this, and I'd had several ciders and wines at the annual dinner, and it was more of a, you never know, which is the answer you're going to get. You're not going to get a full chapter and verse of, well, Ian, yes, I maybe do, but yeah, I think.
At least for now, he's with the Pretoria Capitals, and tomorrow afternoon is Tom Abel's Sunrisers Eastern Cape against Will Smead's Pretoria Capitals. So for anyone who's lucky enough not to be at work and fancies a little bit of franchise cricket to pass the time, there's a nice Somerset versus Somerset clash tomorrow afternoon.
Do we know anyone who's been lucky enough to not be at work and is able to talk us through most of the franchise cricket that's been going on involving Somerset players? We'll make this our regular winter session. We'll put it Franchise Watch. So we have in the SA20, I'm going to do this off the top of my head now, we have Tom Abel, Craig Overton and Roloff van der Merwe at the ones that play in Orange.
Sunrisers Eastern Cape. But now the Van der Merwe hasn't been picked.
I know. They picked Liam Dawson and Harmer ahead of him. Liam Dawson, to be fair, took a fantastic catch in the game I watched on Sunday. I think they bowled the Dolphins, is it? No. They played it blue. Anyway, they bowled them out for about 85 and knocked them off pretty easily. Tom Abel got a few. But yeah, Roloff's not been playing. I think Craig's played one, maybe two games. Tom's played all of them. He batted really well on Friday. I thought he dealt with is it Noor Ahmed, the wrist spinner, left arm wrist spinner. I thought he was coming into form. He was out first ball in their first game, and then he got run out in the second game. But he's he looks in pretty good form now, and he's a key part of their side. It seems over there, the scores are a bit lower, and if you have a kind of Abel, Root, Williamson type person at 3, which people can kind of bat around, that seems to be a formula that works over there. There are a lot more spin bowlers, slower bowlers. So I think that's the extent of the Somerset
interest in that particular tournament. Tom
Will
Banton had a
Smith
few
got 50, didn't he? No, Will Smith got 50 for his side as
for
well.
Pretoria.
Three.
Yeah,
It's that they half of them don't seem to bat where they bat for us, do they? Abel's batting at 3, bats at 4 for us. Smede's batting at 3 and already opens. But yeah, you're right. I think that's it for the SA20. Then we've got the IL20, which is the one with nobody watching in these empty stands that kind of give you the deja vu, the sort of the nostalgia for COVID times, playing in front of empty stadiums with the crowd noise being pumped in. And we've got Tom Blanton over there for MI Emirates, and TKC is in something else. I can't remember what it is.
Garja Warriors with a Z at the end.
Yeah, but they're not on. That's not on telly, is it? That one, or not, at least not over here, or is it?
I was told that I haven't actually tried it. Apparently, it's on Sky Channel 707. Although I haven't.
Oh, is
I haven't
it?
checked that for myself.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently.
No, I haven't worked out.
Is
how
this
to watch
where
that.
Sky Channel 707 is like Babe Station, and then all these incredibly enthusiastic Somerset fans switch their TV over, and all of a sudden it's all these semi-naked women? I presume that's what Babe Station is. I don't know. Somebody.
I'm going to give that a try because
Moving on.
there clearly isn't enough cricket. And then there's the Big Bash, which I've watched a lot of as well, which has been interesting. Which people from England have been playing in that tournament. And there's been quite a lot of underwhelming performances, I would say, from unlikely people. So Keaton Jennings, who couldn't get 100 contract, opening the batting for Western Australia, not Western Australia. What are they called? Perth Scorchers, and not really doing very much. Laurie Evans, another star of the second 11 finals day, for Surrey, has been a sort of supposedly big player for the Melbourne Stars or Renegades for the Renegades.
Jamie Everton's done well.
Yeah,
he was in team of the tournament, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He no one could get him out. He sort of kept coming in and scoring a few runs, and there was one game where he got smashed all over the place.
Was that the game where he was ticking and he was trying to man catch?
Yeah.
And it was one of those. It's one of those where you sort of run in and then you stop, and the batter's just not doing anything wrong and just carrying on his incredibly slow.
Batsman was out of his crease.
I know, but it was one of the ones.
I watched it, and Jamie went. He held the ball by the stump and said to him, "Don't do it again." Which is exactly,
I know, but it was. It's one of those ones where you're very slowly ambling out of the creases. The guy's charging in at 25 mile an hour as fast as he can, and you're timing your thing, and then you're looking because you want to see where the ball goes when the batter hits it, and then the bowler stops and goes, I don't like that. If you're genuinely stealing a yard, fair enough, but I don't like the ones where you sort of, the bowler stops dead and then the batsman creeps forward at about 2 mile an hour, an inch out of his ground. I don't like those, but yeah, if you're stealing a yard, fair enough.
On the subject of on-field tension, the other player that I've really enjoyed watching is Sam Constance, opening for Australia, who clearly, was getting up the noses of the Indians and really riled Kohli and played the most ridiculous shots to Jasprit Bumrah. I mean, I expect he'll be found out. In terms of his technique, I don't know, but he's an extraordinarily exciting, cheeky, 100% Aussie at the top of the order, and I can see him being hated by the Barmy Army next winter.
Well, I mean, how pathetic was Kohli giving him that shoulder charge? I mean, yeah, going back to that tweet the club put out about the preamble to the Matt Henry announcement. Who would you like to see as your overseas player? A couple of people put Kohli. I thought, no. I mean, we'll generally welcome anybody at Somerset if they're a decent enough player. But God's sake, if you ever sign Kohli, that's going to be. I can't think of a more non-Somerset attitude player than our dear friend Virat. But
I don't think we can afford him.
Well, that's probably a good thing, I'd suggest.
Maybe we'll sign Constance one day. as a, if he fancies a stint in the Championship before an Ashes series,
Yeah.
I suit him perfectly.
Renshaw's a much better player than Constance.
Stirring the pot again. Well, yeah, I mean, Andy Cleave just said, would you be happy with Renshaw as our second overseas for the first half of the Championship season? Does Gibbo know something? He didn't convert many of the starts into big
Gibbo
hundreds.
doesn't know anything. Gibbo just thinks it would be a good idea.
Mm.
In the absence of any better qualified candidate. And I'm not sure that Pretorius qualifies as better than Matt Renshaw. I think Renshaw would do more for the team than Pretorius, or an equivalent to Pretorius as a sort of medium pace bowler.
If we are saving a few quid with TKC renegotiating his contract to a Red Bull deal, there would potentially be some extra funds in the pot. So we could possibly have 3 overseas on a rotational basis.
Yeah, but once we've paid for that one-way gate that you want to put in, and Brian Rose,
£3,500.
there'll be no money left for anything.
We'll crowdfund it. There we are, £3,500. Well, we don't even need to, because if we get 3 overseas, only 2 of them can play, which leaves one of them free to put that orange Tigers jacket on. There we go. They can sign autographs and be a steward. Freddie Marsden asks, would it be worth looking to sign someone for the second half of the Blast when we sadly lose Henry? And is it too much to hope that he might return for a game or two towards the end of the season? I think they will be looking to get somebody in for the Blast. Again, yeah, they generally know. They make good signings. They got his Sodi in when Roloff was injured in 2023. They get the right characters as well as the right players. So I'm 100% confident that.
I tell you what, that other Tasmanian opening bowler looked pretty good. I can't remember what his name is. The one who's playing for the Hobart Hurricanes. No, not Nate. No, well, perhaps he wasn't Hobart Hurricanes, but he was a big, tall bloke, really quite quick. Yeah, that's the one.
He's quite injury prone, but he's. I think he's kind of fallen away a bit. Like a few years ago, he was a really big talent and big in more ways than one. But he's kind of had injury problems in the last few years, I think. But he's a good bowler on his day when he's fit.
And what about that New Zealand quick bowler?
Will O'Rourke.
He looked more than
useful. He'd be good.
But I think that Indian fella, is it Bumrah? He looked pretty good as well. We get him as well.
We'll get him.
Well, second half of the Blast plus second half of CC and One Day Cup is maybe the perfect slot for Pretorius to come in potentially. So depends on. Thing is, he's the kind of player who might be hedging his bets, hoping for like a Major League Cricket contract or a CPL contract, that kind of thing as well. He's obviously not in the South Africa team at the moment, but he's definitely a kind of player who might want to play some franchise cricket. So it depends if he wants to try and get into the Test team. And the Test team is, I think, he was in the Test squad, wasn't he? So it's the format he's closest to, I think, in terms of South Africa selections. So yeah, if he wants to come back to us, I'd hope that we would look to sign him again for a period, because there are slots, as we said, there are slots within the season where he could come back, start of the season, second half of the season. So.
And he's a good, honest bowler. Don't you ever let us down, apart from that horrendous shot he played against Cam Steele at the Oval. He did. He's definitely redeemed himself.
I've got to go, Steps. I've got to go.
Is it supper time, Gibbo?
It is. So
what we got this evening?
I don't know. It's a surprise, a special. So even more important that I'm not late for it.
Very nice. Well, I've not got anything else either. Pete and Dan, have you got anything further?
Worth just mentioning that Katie Jones, Somerset wicketkeeper, has been doing well for England under-19s in the T20 World Cup, under-19s T20 World Cup. And England women play again. They play at 2:30 in the morning. So if anyone wants to see that, then they should, if they are struggling to sleep. But yeah, that tournament goes on for another week or so after this weekend, I think. So be a few more chances to see Somerset's Katie Jones playing for England under-19s. I think it's on Sky. It's all on Sky Sports, I think. All the England games are. So worth keeping an eye on that, sort of in the middle of the night and early morning. So
definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
Peter, anything for yourselves?
No, I'm off to check out Channel 707.
I think we all are. Right. All right.
All right.
Cheers, everyone. Catch up with you soon.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers,
Ta.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.